Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. I was having some technical difficulties. Now, thanks to my daughter, everything is fixed. Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry I'm 10 minutes late. Welcome to this first live YouTube session. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nadine Zeinoun, and I am an executive and emotional intelligence coach and trainer. Welcome to this session. This session is going to be about building trust in remote teams and in hybrid situations. We all know that this is becoming a big challenge for us. But before we start looking into how do we do that, let's take a look at why trust. So, what is important about trust? Do we just want to build trust because it's something nice to have? It's a nice feeling, and it makes us feel good about ourselves and about our relationships. Well, that is part of why trust is important, but that's not only the reason. So, if we look at trust, trust actually impacts our whole neurochemistry. So, it impacts our brain, it impacts the way we function. Because when we feel trust, we have certain hormones that are secreted in our body that activate a part of our brain that is essential for executive functioning. So, if I want to be innovative, if I want to be creative, if I want to plan well and think strategically, if I want to think outside the box and even connect with people, I need a part of my brain which is called the prefrontal cortex. It's this part here behind our forehead. I need it to be active, and it is activated under trust. On the other hand, if I'm not feeling trust in the workplace or with my manager or with my colleagues, another part of my brain is activated, which is the reptilian brain. It's the part of the brain here at the base of my skull. And that area is responsible for my survival. So, what does that mean? It means that when I don't feel trust, but I feel distrust and fear, and I feel like I'm threatened, that part of the brain gets activated, and I will be functioning just to survive. So I'm doing the minimum just to survive, just to get by, just to, get my objectives met, barely met. But I won't be doing my best. I won't be giving it that extra mile, and I won't be giving the commitment that is needed for me to thrive and for my team and organization to thrive. And that is why trust is very, very essential and important. So, if we go to the virtual setting, so why is it challenging? First of all, because trust really is based on connection. And we lose that human connection when we are connecting virtually or working from home or hybrid or remote. So we lose that human connection. And what happens here when we lose the human connection is we're not able to create that oxytocin and that trust. So the hormone that induces trust. So you see, in when we are in person, there are things that happen in our day-to-day in-person life that we take for granted. Like, for example, the coffee chats that happen, or perhaps I bump into you in the hallway and we have a 1 minute discussion of asking each other how we are, how are our kids, what did we do yesterday, etc. So that personal connection, that brief chat that happened, or that coffee chat that happens, or when we sit together over lunch and we have that discussion, that creates human connection. So I get to know you on a human basis, on a personal basis. I get to know the person in you, not just the professional in you that is doing the business and doing the tasks that are required for the business. So I get to know your priorities, your values, how you think, what is important to you, what is not, what are your aspirations, what you like to do in your free time, etc. So those chit chats, if you want, those personal conversations do not occur in the virtual world. We only meet because we want to get something done in the business. So there's only a business purpose when we meet, and the time is limited. So it's kind of, it takes away our freedom. We feel like we're squeezed into this meeting and we all come together and we all leave together. We don't even have a chat while we're going to the office. So all of that, which we usually take for granted, the impact is big because it's not allowing for that human to human connection. So what do we do in this case? If I want to give you one word that summarizes whatever I'm going to talk today and talk about today, it's intention. We need to be intentional. So, as leaders, remember that you are not going to have these moments. So, you need to create them. You need to be intentional about creating them. And perhaps, like in a meeting, you can give some time for checking in on people, knowing what they did, how their day is going. And perhaps you can also connect with them on a day to day basis. So don't leave, the connection only till the weekly meeting or the monthly meeting or, the bi-monthly meeting. Connect with your team every single day. Even if it's a 1 minute chat, just connect with them. And there doesn't have to be a business purpose. Just see how they're doing. What are they feeling? How did they wake up? Are they okay today? They feel focused. Do they need any support? So make them feel like there is a connection, even if there's a distance between you. So be intentional about that because that's really critically important. Another thing that is important is, in the virtual world, we can't really make out people's tone of voice. We can't make out their facial expressions that well or their body language. Sometimes the video's off. Sometimes we're talking on Slack and we're just sending messages back and forth or through email. So we lose that nonverbal communication and the power of the voice. And we know in communication that 93% of the message lies in the voice and in the nonverbal communication. So when we lose that, what happens is there's more chance that misunderstandings are going to happen. People are not going to know. So, like for example, one of my coachees once called me, and they were in panic mode. And she said, I received this message on Slack from my boss saying that we need to talk. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? Could there be something I didn't complete? Did I submit something that wasn't good enough? Am I going to get fired? So she was like all over the place, panicking. And I don't blame her because you see that message lacked tone, lacked facial expressions, lacked body language. So she interpreted it the way she wanted. And she interpreted it through fear because that's what she's living, isolation in the virtual world. So again, going back to intention, as a leader, be intentional about explaining things to people. So make sure that you don't, I know your time is limited, but don't limit the words that you share with people through Slack or through email. Explain. We call this in emotional intelligence emotional expression. So don't just be assertive and say what you want, like meet me at this time, give me this report, send me this by 2 o'clock. No, be explain why or explain what's going on and why you need this. So instead of just telling them, we need to talk, I was thinking and I'm wondering about this, and I feel like it's better if we meet and have a discussion so that I can hear what you want to think, what you think, or your ideas or your opinion. So give a little bit of, meat to this discussion. Add some extra flavor to this discussion and explain to people. And this has to be intentional because we're not always comfortable with giving these details. So make sure to put yourself in a situation where you are intentional about explaining these extra reasons behind it or your intentions so that your intentions won't be misunderstood. Now, another thing that happens is because we don't continuously bump into each other, we forget to communicate. So a lot of times, because we don't have this, we lose this consistency of communication. And when there's no consistency of communication, when communication is just haphazard, I share with you, information haphazardly or once every month or whenever, like I happen to remember, this creates uncertainty in the minds of people. And uncertainty is interpreted as fear by our brain. So again, be intentional in creating that consistent communication Make sure you're always consistent in telling people uh, what is going on, what is happening, updates on projects. Have this consistently and continuously, so that you can create safety for the team. Now, another challenge is sometimes, because we lose that, in-person space during meetings. So we enter the meeting, we have a limited time. People have back-to-back meetings, so they have to go on time. We can't go over time. So because we need to stick to that time, we feel pressured to just share the things that are needed, and we forget that sometimes people are not feeling comfortable. People are feeling overwhelmed, or people are not very certain about why we're doing this or what is important about this. But because of this time restriction, people don't feel free to be vulnerable. They don't feel safe. So the psychological safety in this space is hindered because of these time restrictions. So again, if we leave this up to, luck, whether, people are going to speak up or not, it's not going to happen. What's going to happen is people are going to feel like they can't speak up, they can't be vulnerable, they can't share their fears and their emotions. And so they're going to take these emotions back to their home and within themselves, and this is going to create more isolation for them. And with isolation comes fear, and with fear, again, we're acting out of survival mode and not out of thriving mode. So again, go back to intention. Be intentional as a leader to allow space for that. So even if the meeting is tight, take 5 minutes at the start of the meeting to discuss with people. Check in, have a check-in, ask them, what are you feeling today? And start yourself. Be vulnerable yourself and tell them, well, today I woke up, I wasn't very focused. And, I noticed that I was worried about this project, and what's worrying me is so and so. So go ahead and share with them your vulnerabilities, your emotions, your fears, and open that space for other people to pitch in and have that discussion. And believe me, sometimes even if it takes half an hour, this is a very healthy thing to do, because this is what's going to create connection among the team and between you and the team members. And it's going to calm them down because they release those emotions, and then they're able to go back and be focused and function from their prefrontal cortex. Now, perhaps one more point that I'd like to discuss today is, sometimes you have a mix. Some people are in the office and some people are virtual, and that's even worse for those people who are virtual, because they can feel alienated. So, for example, in meetings, I know that sometimes leaders unconsciously, they start by taking the opinions of the people around the table because they're together physically and they feel closer to them, and they forget about those people who are in on Zoom or on Teams. So what do you think happens to those people? Yeah, they feel excluded, and the exclusion creates fear, and fear creates cortisol, and cortisol activates the primitive brain. So they will be functioning from survival mode. So they feel isolated. So make sure that if you are in that space as a leader, be intentional again to involve them, to include them, ask them for their opinion before you ask anyone else. Make them feel like their voice matters, and listen to what they're saying, and make sure there's an equal allocation of space or voice to everyone who is there, so that they feel like they are part of the team, even if they are at a distance from you and the others. So these points are really critical to keep in mind. And perhaps one other thing I might add is that sometimes the person who is working from home or virtual, they think that because they're out of sight, they're out of mind. So they think that because they are not in contact uh, with their boss every single day, that the boss doesn't appreciate what they do, because there's no feedback. They don't receive positive feedback. Like they can't see on their face if they're happy with the work or whatever. So all of this is gone. And this makes them feel like they're uncertain. Okay, am I doing a good job? And they start making these assumptions that people are not okay with what they're doing just because they can't see them. So again, you need to set their mind at rest, and the way you can do that is by intentionally giving feedback, appreciating, recognizing the efforts, recognizing them in public, in meetings, so that people still feel that recognition, still feel that they're doing a good job, even if they can't see you every single day. So these things are really important to address, because isolation is difficult. And, we're made to connect. We are human beings, and one of our basic needs is connection. And now in this new world, that connection has been compromised to a certain extent. So we need to be more intentional about creating that connection. And that is our job and our role as leaders. And one thing I want to mention from a leader point of view, sometimes, and I've heard this from some of my clients, when they don't see people in front of them working, they panic and they get scared that the work is not being done. So what happens here is they start managing them, micromanaging them, or they start following them on seeing whether they're on Teams, whether they're active, or whether there's a green light or a red light, and tracking all these things, uh, and they become like so obsessed with this just because they're afraid that people are not under their control. So pay attention. If you are going through that as a leader, it's really important to address that, perhaps with your coach or with your mentor or with someone, because if you keep on doing that, you're only going to make people feel like you don't trust them and that you're skeptical of them and you doubt them. And that's going to create a lot of disengagement, a lot of demotivation, and a lot of fear. So if you want to create trust and get the best out of people, that's not going to help. So again, we talked a lot about a lot of things and a lot of points. I hope I didn't overwhelm you with all this information. It's really weird for me being here live and just talking on my own and not having any interaction from anyone. So bear with me. This is my first experience in this way. I do want to thank you, and if I want to summarize everything in one word, I would say intentional. You need to become intentional. All of these things you took for granted before because they happened haphazardly without us really wanting them to happen or aiming for them to happen. But now they're not there anymore. We need to create them. We need to be intentional about that. So I hope that was helpful to you. If you like this content, make sure you subscribe to this channel so that you will be alerted when there are new videos out that I share, or when there are new live sessions that we will be doing together. So I wish you the best. If you have any questions, you can just send me a message, and I'd be delighted to answer you and address any question that you have. Thank you very much for your attention, and I apologize again for the technical problems and for being late to go live today. Have a wonderful rest of evening.